Oh, hey, good morning, good afternoon, everybody, depending on which part of this beautiful country that you're in. I am Sheila Gunn-Reid. I'm the editor-in-chief here at Rebel News Network, and this is Rebel Roundup. Used to be a daily show, then it was a weekly show. Now we're trying it out a couple of times a week, wherein we talk about the news of the day completely unscripted. And we want to hear from you. You see, unlike our competitors, if you can call them that, in the mainstream media, we actually care about what you think about Rebel News, and we also believe in letting you have your say. So if you're watching us on the censorship platform of YouTube, thank you for sticking it out there. We have 1.6 million plus sets of eyeballs there, and we don't want to abandon you, but I should tell you that we are completely demonetized on YouTube. A little bit too much truth for those folks over there. But as I said, we don't want to abandon you. So we broadcast there because you are there. But if you want to migrate over to a great free speech platform and have the opportunity to support the work that we do here at Rebel News, might I consider suggesting that you migrate over to Rumble. So Rumble, as I said, great free speech platform. They don't care what you think, and I don't really care what they think. And I think that's what you want in a social media platform. You don't want it to be all one way. You want it to be the marketplace of ideas. And really, that's what Rumble is. But Rumble has something called a Rumble Rant. And that's where you could pitch in to support the work that we do here at Rebel News, because we'll never take a penny from Justin Trudeau. And how could we ever hold him to account if we did? And if your Rumble Rant is over the $5 US cutoff, I am hereby obligating myself to read your Rumble Rant on air. I'll do my best to address whatever question, concern, or comment that you're making. But don't let that be the bar for entry, because frequently we read the chats that are under the $5 US cutoff. And sometimes we even read the free chats, because sometimes you guys are just funny and clever and maybe even a little bit cynical, and we'll read those on air too. So that's what we're doing here. So get chatting. Got a question, a comment about any of the stories that you see today, put it in a Rumble Rant. Help us keep doing what we do at Rebel News, and let us give you a voice. Now, I mentioned the good folks at Rumble. We love working with Rumble. And because we stream on Rumble, we have the opportunity to do a little bit of ad reads, get a little bit of revenue into the company in other ways. So before we get into the news of the day, we've got a message from our friends at Birch Gold Group. We've recently had some monumental news that no one is talking about for the first time ever. This is chilling, guys. And Canadians, if you think we're in better shape, do not fool yourself. For the first time ever, the interest the United States pays on its debt surpassed every individual budget item except Social Security. That's also chilling because Social Security is huge with an aging population. That's right, the US now spends more on interest than on national defense or even Medicare. And it's only getting worse as big government continues to spend recklessly. That's why savvy Americans are turning to gold, something not tied to the inflated dollar. You can too with the help of Birch Gold Group. For over 20 years, Birch Gold has helped tens of thousands of Americans protect their retirement savings by converting to an IRA or a 401k into an IRA in gold. To learn more, go to birchgold.com/rumble and get a free, no obligation info kit on diversifying your retirement into a gold IRA. Birch Gold has earned an A+ rating with the BBB and thousands of happy customers. Protect your IRA or 401k. Go to birchgold.com/rumble to get your free info kit on gold today. All right, let's get into the news. Crazy week in news. Started off with the Liberals dusting off the old Harper is lurking scaremongering that they've been up to for 9 years. But these people are quite literally the system. When they say there's systemic racism, who's the system? It's the Liberals, right? They've been in charge for 9 years. So backtrack a couple of weeks, actually, to the very end of July. A man and his son are arrested in Richmond Hill in Toronto, Greater Toronto area, plotting a terror attack on, as it turns out, the Jewish community in Toronto. They were in search of an axe and a machete. And as we will come to learn, the elder individual in this father-son dynamic terror duo, he's got some experience using a machete or a sword to get the job done, if you will. So the father, Mustafa El-Didi, age 62, in the summer of 2015, he is featured in an ISIS video chopping away at a crucified prisoner with a sword. Fast forward a little bit, he just immigrates to Canada. We just take him. Nobody, well, maybe they did security screen him, and this was just a thing that they didn't care about. We have to get to the bottom of that. And it sounds like the Conservatives in the House of Commons are doing their best to do that. One of the terror-related offenses is conspiracy to murder at the direction of the Islamic State. He's also been charged with aggravated assault for something that happened outside of the country, ostensibly hacking at a crucified prisoner with a sword. I suspect it probably should be murder, but I guess the problem is they can't prove maybe who the victim is and whether or not he died, although I'm pretty sure he did. So those two end up coming to Canada through our immigration system, which the Liberals were in charge of. Then the elder El-Didi gets his citizenship. Well, that's a great way to sponsor all your other terror apologists or actual terrorists in your family to come to Canada through this family sponsorship program. So I'm sure that there's a whole host of El-Didis in this country. And so the Liberals are sort of on the hot seat for this, as they should be. The House of Commons SECU, that's a Security and Public Safety Committee, has convened in a sort of, it's not unprecedented, but unusual summer sitting to do their best to pass a motion to recall the immigration minister and the public safety minister to testify at the House of Commons about why this happened. Because the entirety of this, outside of the ISIS video that was filmed in July outside of the country, every aspect of this up until the arrest happened on the Liberals' watch. And by the way, that terror attack very well could have happened save for the fact that French officials tipped the Canadians off to what was happening. So I think the LDD had been outside of the country in France, and I think French officials got information about a terror attack that was being planned in Canada by him. So they tipped off the Canadians. Had they not done that, it very likely would have happened. So the Liberals, they know who the bad guy is, though. It's Stephen Harper, who has not been in charge of anything in 9+ years. So Jennifer O'Connell, she is, I think, just sent to these committees, like she sits on these committees just to annoy the living daylights out of anybody with a couple of brain cells to rub together. She blamed Stephen Harper's cuts from 9 years ago to the CBSA, so that's the Canada Border Services Agency. Take a listen to this nonsense.
And in fact, I am very pleased to see the Conservatives finally realize that their cuts have consequences. And previously under the Harper government, when they cut more than 1,000 CBSA employees, at the time, the president of the Customs and Immigration Union said, quote, "There will be little and in some cases potentially no investigating or surveillance being done to keep these criminals out of the country and out of our communities." Fortin also said, "If the government doesn't change the course and withdraw its plan to implement these cuts, the federal government will be putting the national security and public safety of our communities at risk," end quote. This is precisely why we have been making reinvestments to staff up CBSA to deal with the previous Conservative cuts. And it's exactly why we continue to make investments through the budget, through the fall economic statement, which Conservatives voted against. So we look forward to having these meetings so Conservatives can truly appreciate that their cuts have consequences to our national security and the safety of our communities. So we are very supportive of these amendments and having that conversation. Thanks.
I don't know if she is that stupid or if she's just faking or if that woman will read whatever piece of paper is put in front of her. The Liberals have been in charge for 9 years. They're blaming Stephen Harper's cuts to the CBSA that occurred in 2014. They've had 9 years to fix whatever they thought Stephen Harper did. But let's just point out the facts. Marty Boulanger on Twitter, so that's Marty up north, he pointed it out, and I thought, great research on this. Where are the Conservatives to do this sort of research? Marty doesn't work for the Conservative Party, but they've got researchers, and they should be pointing this stuff out every time a Liberal trots out the specter of the ghost of Stephen Harper as the culprit for their failures. The Liberals did not substantially increase the CBSA budget from Harper's so-called cuts in 2014. They didn't substantially increase it in 2015. It basically remained the same. They did not substantially increase it in 2016. Again, stagnant funding at the CBSA. So if they thought it was a problem, why didn't they do anything about it? Gets worse though. In 2017, the Liberals cut the budget. So they're blaming Stephen Harper's cuts, but actually they cut it from they had the CBSA budget lower than Stephen Harper's funding. And then throw into the mix, I think it was the 2018 tweet from Justin Trudeau, that welcome to Canada tweet, when he thought he was going to be so cool and troll Donald Trump because Donald Trump imposed an immigration ban on, I think it was 5 failed states where you couldn't verify somebody's identity on their passport if indeed these countries even issued passports. That was the state of affairs. Trudeau tweeted out, "Welcome to Canada. To those fleeing persecution, terror, and war, Canadians will welcome you regardless of your faith. Diversity is our strength. Welcome to Canada." So, oh, sorry, that's 2017. So that is the year that Justin Trudeau cut the budget. Now, Justin Trudeau's Welcome to Canada tweet caused a near collapse in our border screening because of the influx of illegal migration. Now, to get an immigration review board hearing, it is years worth of wait. So you come into Canada, you used to have to do it at Roxham Road. Now they'll let you do it at an airport. The Liberals said they closed Roxham Road. Yeah, but they also said you could just, instead of claiming refugee status at an illegal point of crossing or irregular point of crossing, you could just do it at Pearson. So we cut out the middleman, I guess. We took the human traffickers out of the equation from upstate New York. And so it caused such an influx that now it is years long after you make your asylum claim, and we just let you go into the country. Heck, we'll even put you up in a hotel in Niagara Falls or some touristy place like that. So that's the year Justin Trudeau cut the budget, and he did not substantially increase the budget, I think, until 2019. And that, even then, barely over Harper era levels. So we've got more migrants flooding to Canada than ever, and only a teeny tiny increase in the CBSA budget from the Liberal cuts. And in all of this, we've got a literal terrorist who hacked away at a crucified prisoner migrating to the country. And the best the Liberals can do is say, Stephen Harper might be lurking under our beds, making us have all sorts of bad ideas about fiscal responsibility. Okay. So that got me thinking. I started to remember back when we had a strong, stable, conservative government in this country. And we did our best to secure our borders and make Canadian citizenship a thing of value, not a thing of convenience. And so I started thinking about back in 2015 when Stephen Harper, he wasn't an oracle. He did not have a crystal ball. The man had a crystal mind. And he was bringing in a piece of legislation called Bill C-24. And what C-24 would do was address exactly this problem. So if you were a dual citizen, which is a good thing, because if we do this to people, it doesn't leave them countryless. You just go to your other country. If you are a dual citizen, so this is normally people who migrate to Canada and then maintain their previous citizenship, Lebanon, Syria, wherever, and get charged and convicted of a terror-related offense, we will strip you of your Canadian citizenship. So you might go to jail here, or we might just deport you, but the chances are you're going to go to jail here, do your time, and then we kick you out of the country. You don't get to be a Canadian citizen, and you don't get to use our citizenship to sponsor the rest of your terror-loving families into our country. So the Liberals straight up did not like C-24. We've got Justin Trudeau from a town hall. This was a leaked recording from the town hall. There's no video, but I dug it up and I remember the firestorm it caused at the time, because I'm old and I've been around politics a very long time. Listen to what Justin Trudeau has to say about who should be able to keep their Canadian citizenship, which is a privilege for somebody not born here and not a right. Listen.
Since 1947, when the Mackenzie King government passed our first Citizenship Act, there was a promise to new Canadians that they could be full citizens, and it's been taken away in this. The idea of actually removing citizens and deporting somebody who might have been born here but happens to hold dual citizenship is absolutely disgusting.
Yep.
What are your views on it?
Yes. C-24, it's the bill that, for me, exemplifies the Conservatives' approach to politics. Because what they get to say with the Liberal Party's staunch opposition to C-24, because we absolutely and thoroughly oppose it, is that, and I'll give you the quote, so you guys can jot it down and put it in a attack ad somewhere, that Liberal Party believes that terrorists should get to keep their Canadian citizenship. Because I do. And I'm willing to take on anyone who disagrees with that. Because the question is, as soon as you make citizenship for some Canadians conditional on good behavior, you devalue citizenship for everyone. A Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian. I mean, personally, I'm envious of new Canadians because I have no merit in being Canadian. It was an accident of birth. I got to be born here, and that's just what I am. New Canadians got to choose Canada. You got to choose to come to this country, or your parents chose to come to this country. And that's a very powerful statement. And the idea that we would say that we'll give you your citizenship, but for the rest of your life, you have to be on your best behavior. Now, you can say best behavior, fine. You get a traffic ticket.
Okay, I think that's good. Yeah. If we give you your citizenship, something you are not entitled to, you do. I think you should have to behave yourself. Perhaps you should not be using the privilege of being a Canadian citizen to plot terror attacks against your fellow Canadians. I mean, this is crazy. This is crazy, but this is from 2015. This is the summer of the campaign of 2015. Justin Trudeau was telling us who he was the entire time. He wasn't pretending. He wasn't hiding any of his radical progressive ideas. He just wasn't. Now, were some people not listening because they were wowed by that last name and the hair and the socks and his jogging shirtless? Probably. But I long for the days of boring old Stephen Harper and his adopted chinchilla and his accountant charm and his boring sweaters that he wore. Oh, and his Lego hair. I long for those days. Instead, 9 years later, Justin Trudeau is doing everything he told us he was going to do. Listen to people because they will tell you exactly who they are. Justin Trudeau did. I've got one more clip on this. It's from the Munk debates. Olivia, I'm sort of putting you on the spot. It's on my Twitter. This is from the Munk debates. This is the leaders debating. Stephen Harper, calm, cool, smart as a tack, not really all that excitable, how you want a politician to be. Sort of the antithesis, actually, of Donald Trump, but in the best possible way, where he's just calm and thoughtful and the grown-up in the room versus the juvenile, self-entitled Prince of Canada, Justin Trudeau, and it's at the Munk debates. And again, he made no bones about the fact that he thinks terrorists should retain their citizenship. Here we go.
Have we not revoked the citizenship of people convicted of terrorist offenses against this country? This was a bill put forward. This was a bill put forward by a member of Parliament who is himself an immigrant, Devinder Shori. This is not the standards we expect. Immigrants, Canadians, all of us who are here expect that we would have a minimum bar that people would not, people who come here would not be guilty of trying to plan terrorist attacks against this country.
A Canadian is a Canadian, and you devalue the citizenship of every Canadian in this place and in this country when you break down and make it conditional for anyone. We have the rule of law in this country, and you can't take away citizenship if you don't like what someone does.
Individual question, the individual question, Mr. Trudeau, is convicted of planning
should be in jail, and that's where they ever leave this country.
A few blocks from here, He would have detonated bombs that would have been on a scale of 9/11. This country has every right to
we are
revoke
not
the
a country
citizenship of an
dominated by
individual like
fear.
that.
We are a country of laws and rights.
This was in the wake of a Toronto terror cell being caught before they detonated bombs that, as Stephen Harper said, would have been our 9/11. And Justin Trudeau was arguing that they should keep their citizenships. I can't even believe sometimes that after that, he was elected prime minister of this country. Don't blame us. Don't blame us Westerners. But I think finally, people in other parts of the country are getting mugged by the reality of voting for shallow ideas instead of strong policies. Voting for the things that governments are supposed to do. Don't waste my money and keep us safe, or at least allow us to keep ourselves safe. Everything else, I don't need them to do. But those are the things that Justin Trudeau failed to do. You know, the debt is out of control. The cost of living is crushing people. People can't afford houses. They can't afford to live. He's adding inflationary taxes onto everything. He's taxing the air that we breathe. He's taxing our trips to go to work so that we can pay his taxes and maybe have a little left to put food on our table, because, as you know, people who take road trips are climate criminals. Justin Trudeau did not do the very things, the bare minimum of somebody who should govern this country. And he told us he wasn't going to do those things. And yet, good people of Toronto, please, I hope you have come to your senses. Please. We've got one more on this topic, and then we'll hit a quick ad break, and then we'll just sort of stick on the same issue, because the 2015 Liberals probably would like to have a word with the 2024 Liberals, if you know what I mean. So one more. This is 2013. Hours after the Boston Marathon bombing. 3 people are dead by then. I think the manhunt was still on while this interview was done, and 260 plus were injured. Lives changed in ways that we cannot even imagine. Peter Mansbridge of the CBC, in a puffball interview with, and doesn't even press back, by the way. Like, I don't know why he was considered a strong journalist. I have no idea. But he's sitting down with the Liberal Party leader at the time. He's not the prime minister. And Justin Trudeau is doing his, like, I'm a big thinker thing that they must have taught him in drama school. And he's asked about what he would do if he were a prime minister faced with a terror attack. And it's pretty much playing out exactly, literally exactly as you would expect, given his remarks in 2013. Let's take a listen.
Because it's only a couple of hours after something has happened that clearly was not an accident in Boston. People have died, many people are injured. You're the Canadian Prime Minister. What do you do?
First thing, you offer support and sympathy and condolences, and can we send down EMTs, or as we contributed after 9/11. I mean, is there any material immediate support we can offer? And then at the same time, over the coming days, we have to look at the root causes. Now, we don't know now whether it was terrorism or a single crazy or a domestic issue or a foreign issue. I mean, all those questions. But there is no question that this happened because there is someone who feels completely excluded, completely at war with innocence, at war with a society.
They're excluded. That's why they blew up the Boston Marathon, killing 3 and 260. They're excluded. That's why he was hacking up that crucified guy, that terrorist was excluded. That's why the guy who hacked up the crucified guy came to Canada into the loving bosom of the Canadian people and then used our country as a staging ground to attack the Jewish community in Toronto. It's excluded, you guys. We are bigots, can't you see? And that's why these Islamist terrorist radicals want to kill us. It's because we're bigots. We're excluding them. We're not accepting enough. We're not accepting enough. Toronto is Canada's most diverse city. In fact, I think more people come from outside of Canada, or at least visible minorities are not the minority in Toronto. So to say that a terror attack in Toronto happened because somebody was excluded by a bunch of white bigots is nonsense. The demographics prove that idea wrong completely. We could not be a more welcoming country to newcomers. So Justin Trudeau, he dislikes Canada. He truly does. Why would you want to be the leader of a bunch of bigots? Right? He thinks we're bigots. Why do you want to be in charge of us? I guess to control us, because I don't think his politics are any particular way except just wokeism and power. I don't think he's a liberal, really. He'll do whatever it takes to stay in power. Lie, cheat, steal, whatever. Line the pockets of your crony friends. Let in a bunch of unvetted migrants as long as they vote for the Liberals. The health, safety, and welfare of your own country be damned. His only ideology is power, I think. Let's do an ad read, then we'll hit an ad break, and then we'll stay on this because the immigration Mark Miller has some comments, and the 2024 Liberal comments would fly directly in the face of the 2015, 2013 Justin Trudeau comments. So which Liberal Party are we getting is what I'm saying. Okay, let's go to a message from our friends at Be Naked. Okay, sorry. Olivia whispers in my ear, we're going to do a Rebel News ad, and then we'll go into Mark Miller's comments.
Are you coming to a Rebel News Live in Calgary this October? We've added another great speaker, political science professor emeritus at the University of Calgary, Tom Flanagan, the renowned author who co-authored the best-selling book, Grave Error: How the Media Misled Us. Doing so can be detrimental to our nation. Like all of the cowardly politicians, historians, and journalists whose silence is still breathing life into the false 2021 claim that the remains of 215 Indigenous children had been discovered in unmarked graves at BC's former Kamloops Indian Residential School. But that's the opposite of what will be happening during our in-person Rebel News Live event coming to Calgary October 5th. Our Rebel News Live will feature many of your favorite Rebel reporters, including yours truly, and conservative and freedom-minded speakers like Mr. Tom Flanagan, who uses his expertise to prove that we're not the racist child slaughterers who must forever be in shame and reconciliation, as they'd like us to think. It's been 3 years, nearly over 100 burnt and vandalized churches, and millions of taxpayer dollars later, and still not a single body has been discovered in an unmarked grave at the former Kamloops Indian Residential School. And Tom Flanagan is not afraid to say that, and we're not afraid to give him a stage to do so. If you haven't already, go to rebelnewslive.com. Buy your tickets at the early bird pricing, which is still available, and there's still some tickets for VIP. Well, you'll not just be able to meet us, but also eat and hang out with us after the conference. Again, that's rebelnewslive.com. I'll see you there.
All right. Yeah, I love Rebel News Live. We get to meet, actually, a lot of you people who are constantly in our chats on the live stream. And most of us, well, not most of us, but a lot of us work remotely. So it's a chance for all of us rebels to get together too. Like I work here in Alberta, Drea's in BC. A lot of the team is in Toronto. We've got our Calgary team. So we all sort of come together too. So it's all not just a chance for us to talk with you, but it's also a little bit of a Rebel News family get together. So long day, lots of fun. And yeah, it's a safe place to exchange dangerous ideas, which I love. All right, we've got a message from our friends at Be Naked. Not something Justin Trudeau has ever been accused of, unless he's groping women, reporters in British Columbia. If you're one of those people who use the phrase toxic masculinity because you're intimidated by real men who embrace their primal instincts, you should probably turn this off right now, literally. So no Justin Trudeau for us. As a man, you're the rock people depend on, a shoulder to cry on, a fighter, a lover, a protector to many. We at Rumble created Be Naked as a brand that celebrates manhood and champions masculinity. Men with real balls that share our enthusiasm for clean, non-woke, and agenda-free products dedicated to helping you dominate every challenge life throws at you. Because we all know that life will always test us, push us, and challenge us. So when life kicks you, and you need to kick back harder, you need to tap into that primal strength. This is why you need our supplement, Naked Organs. Our signature product will help you unleash your inner beast. Naked Organs comes from the purest and strongest animals on the earth, the fearless bison. It's nature's multivitamin powerhouse, delivering endless energy, regulating hormone health, boosting testosterone, and enhancing muscle recovery with natural creatine. Go to Be Naked right now and pick up some Naked Organs to embrace your manhood. That's benaked.com/studio and use the code STUDIO to save 15% off your first subscription order. Celebrate being a man, getting healthy, living naked, and putting your hard-earned dollars towards supporting freedom-loving creators like me on Rumble, not the woke mob. Creatine is a great supplement. I don't think people take enough of it. All right, let's go into Mark Miller. Mark Miller, our immigration minister, liberal immigration minister. He's going to have to testify to this at the House of Commons SECU committee about how a terrorist got citizenship, not only got into the country, but got citizenship. Of course, he's going to blame the specter of Stephen Harper looming around. But the truth is he's been in charge. And so he's been asked about this. What's he going to do about it? So let's hear from him.
The government has said it's reviewing the timeline of events in the terror case in Toronto. Wondering what that has uncovered.
So, look, I'd like to give you a better answer, frankly, today, and I don't have one better than the one I'm about to give you. The reality is I want to know exactly what happened, when, and how. That is something I have ordered my deputy minister to undertake with my department, to look at the timeline at which the individual in question got their permanent residency and citizenship, who knew what, when, and how. I hope to be able to provide answers in a relatively short timeline about what happened. I'm as disgusted as any Canadian, but I have a responsibility to get to the bottom of it. And I will. The information that I can share in the context of criminal proceedings may be limited, but I want to make sure first and foremost that Canadians are safe and that we do not compromise an ongoing court case. But again, I think Canadians deserve answers. I'm going to get to the bottom of it. I'm also going to take the next step, which is to start the preliminary work with the evidence at hand to look at whether the individual in question's citizenship should be revoked.
What? No, you can't do that. That's Justin Trudeau. Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian. Right? Or are they actually going to do something because they're failing in the polls right now? I don't know. But somebody should maybe ask Justin Trudeau why he said a Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian. And if you strip terrorists of their citizenship, somehow that devalues my citizenship or something, some nonsense like that. Somebody should ask him in a press conference. I'd love to, but we're not allowed to go to press conferences with the Liberals because the press gallery keeps us out, because we might ask a prickly question that embarrasses both the Liberals but also the press gallery for not asking it. Isn't it neat how our competitors get to maintain their monopoly on access to politicians through this quirk of who controls access to Parliament Hill as a journalist. And, you know, the Liberals, their press secretaries, they will cancel, not just disallow Rebel News from showing up to their press conferences, but actually cancel entire press conferences if they get a whiff in the wind that a Rebel might show up. They're like, actually, no, we're not doing a press availability today. We're not even doing whatever announcement we had planned because somebody might show up and ask us a prickly question. Let's go to one more from Mark Miller. He's being asked about this other immigration problem happening in Canada, the flood of temporary foreign workers that is driving down wages in this country and driving up unemployment for naturalized or Canadian-born citizens. Because, as Ezra pointed out to us the other day, the number of temporary foreign workers being taken into this country is greater than the number of unemployed young people. We could fix the youth unemployment problem in this country if we just said, you know what, you can go find a job at home or in another country, because right now you are not filling a labor market void that we cannot fill here in Canada with our unemployed young people. So Mark Miller is asked about this.
Look, I think I object to the characterization. I think to some extent it's quite offensive to treat people that have employees that are temporary foreign workers as slave owners. I have met a number of them. I've been to farms. The rapporteur in this first meeting, my understanding, actually never went to a farm. It's something that I don't want to deny the underlying facts. There are abuses. I think the characterization is inflammatory. At the same time, I have a job to make sure that these abuses stop. As I said in my concluding remarks in French, any person in Canada, regardless of who they employ, need to treat people with dignity and respect according to law. And that isn't happening in some sectors that employ temporary foreign workers. That needs to end. I initiated earlier this year the open work program for people that were suffering abuses at the hands of their employers. It's not the be all and end all. There are a number of reforms that need to be put into place. It's work that I'm doing with my colleague, Minister Randy Boissonnault, who has responsibility for that program, to make sure that that low wage stream doesn't have abuses associated to it, and those abuses need to end to the extent they are occurring. That is an area that has doubled or tripled in terms of numbers in the last few years, for a number of reasons. But we are in a food inflationary scenario, and we don't, in implementing our reforms, make sure that we are not affecting food prices, because that's something Canadians don't want to see. At the same time, they don't want to see people being treated improperly in Canada. It's a first world country, and that in some cases is occurring and needs to end.
Honest to goodness, I almost feel bad for Mark Miller. You know, I feel like he was just handed a absolute crap sandwich of a portfolio, and all the problems with his portfolio and immigration are coming to light under his watch, and he seems like a battered man there. The reason he's responding to that question is a UN report concluded. Now, take for this what you will, because it's the United Nations, but the Liberals got to dance with the ones that brought them, right? As Shania Twain once sang, dance with the one that brought you. And they have cozied right up to the UN. They said the UN is the end-all be-all. So now the UN, looking at the Liberals, have said Canada's temporary foreign worker program is a breeding ground for modern slavery. So if the UN is a credible place, as the Liberals tell us they are, on all issues regarding, let's just say climate, Israel, all right, great. Then they're right about you too, Mark Miller, Justin Trudeau. Can't pick and choose. Dance with the one that brought you. So that's enough of that. Let's go to things that are happening in Alberta, because I'm the host. I'm from Alberta, and I like to talk about this place. So those of you who may know if you follow Alberta politics closely, and I think you should, because Alberta politics really influence what happens federally. We love to fight with the Justin Trudeau Liberals. We're also, I think, the fundraising hotbed for the Conservative Party of Canada. We are basically the stronghold for their MPs. I think we put up some of the strongest MPs. We are sort of the first out on a lot of issues, either us or Saskatchewan. I want to make sure we give Saskatchewan the credit that they're due, especially on parents' rights. So, we're not just a fiscal powerhouse, but also sort of on the front lines of the culture war that's happening in this country, but also around the world. And in the midst of all of that, the NDP ran a leadership race. So former Premier Rachel Notley, NDP Premier Rachel Notley, she decided after losing 2 back-to-back elections that it was time for new leadership. And so Calgary's former mayor, Naheed Nenshi, he ran. He was not really an NDPer. He was from outside the party, ran for the leader and won. And I think some of the NDP brain trust around Notley, their noses are a bit out of joint. Sarah Hoffman, the former health minister, keep your jokes to yourself. And who's the woman who looks like Lyle Lovett? Cross between Lyle Lovett and Kramer from Seinfeld. Her name escapes me right now. But anyway, those two. Thank you, Olivia. Janice Irwin. Google, you'll know what I'm talking about. Just Google image search and exactly. If Lyle Lovett and Kramer had a baby with poor eyesight, you would get Janice Irwin. So those two thought for sure they would sort of be back and forth, 1 and 2. I think there you go. See, the NDPers thought, okay, we would do fine with either one of these two women as a leader, and they're so progressive. Janice Irwin, gay woman, wouldn't it be great if she was leading the NDP? And Sarah Hoffman of the, oh God, I don't know how to say this tactfully, but I'm not a woman known for my tact. The body positivity movement. I think the NDP would have been happy with either one of those two because they checked all the right boxes. But in comes this guy from Calgary, from outside of the party. In fact, I think he's probably a federal liberal, if I had to guess. Former mayor of Calgary, ran the place into the ground. If you're wondering why you have infrastructure problems in Calgary, look at Nenshi. He comes from outside the party, wins the lead, sweeps the leadership in one vote. I think it was 70% of the membership he took. Wow. Maybe that wasn't how it all went down. You see, the NDP were caught inflating their membership and donation numbers by Elections Alberta. They were literally giving away memberships to people who had never bought them. So who voted with those memberships, right? If you gave away memberships to people who never bought them, who used those memberships to vote? And who did they vote for? Could it be the guy from outside of the party? Probably. It's a possibility. I don't want Nenshi to sue me, but boy, it sure looks fishy. Fishy. So then we've got this tweet from Peter McCaffrey from the Alberta Institute. He was on my show, my paywall show, a little while back during the NDP leadership because I was like, everybody says that Nenshi, he's going to be the goose that laid the golden egg. And he's going to be the guy who is able to unseat the Conservative juggernaut of Danielle Smith. Because in Alberta, always rural votes Conservative, whatever the iteration of the party is, be it Wild Rose, be it the old PCs, be it the United Conservatives, Rural always goes conservative in some form. Calgary's sometimes up in the air, although Calgary is pretty conservative. Edmonton basically is a lost cause. The suburbs are kind of split. I think that'll change next time around. But suburbs to the east and to the south normally go conservative. And Fort Saskatchewan's conservative always. But Edmonton is never in play. It's always just NDP. It's just a write-off. As Ralph Klein once said, it's a great place with too many socialists and mosquitoes. It's the seat of government, right? It's a union place. Calgary, if you can get enough of Calgary and all of Edmonton, you can be the premier. And the rural people can just suck on an egg as far as the progressives are concerned. So that I think that's why the people who had legitimate NDP memberships and voted for Nenshi, I think that's why they chose him over fat and sassy, her words not mine, Sarah Hoffman, or Janice Irwin. And her incredible smile. So anyway, all that is to say, they got Nenshi. Did it actually do any good for the NDP? Just take a look at the numbers. From our friend Peter McCaffrey, changed since March when Nenshi kicked off his leadership race. In March, from Leger, UCP 46, NDP 44. I don't believe those numbers. I think they're still too close. August, Leger, UCP 48, NDP 40. So they're actually losing ground. It couldn't happen to a nicer bunch. And every single time somebody sees Nenshi at an official NDP event, don't bug him on the street when he's with his family or whatever. I don't do that. But if you see Nenshi in an NDP capacity, I want you to ask him why he didn't do something to fix the infrastructure in Calgary. Because Calgarians were on water restrictions for the entire summer because he failed to do something about the infrastructure system there. And I think it's a ticking time bomb. So Nenshi somehow in Alberta is less popular than Rachel Notley, the scarecrow to the oil patch. Anyway, Olivia, do we have an ad read? Okay, let's go to what I've been working on lately. So I've always been curious because, well, I'm not curious. I know the answer. I just need proof. I think that the Liberal government offering our veterans medical assistance in dying is a systemic government policy and not a one-of by some angel of death ghoul working in a lone Veterans Affairs office somewhere. So medical assistance in dying is just a cleaned up, tidy way of saying offering to euthanize prickly veterans because they cost too much and they're a bit of a hassle because of their PTSD and their complex injuries, oftentimes from their time in a theater of war. And so they can be expensive, and but that's the deal. You sign up to serve our country and our interests abroad, and we take care of you. If you damage yourself, if we break you, we'll never be able to fix you. But we should be able to help you, give you what you need to live at least a decent quality of life. Well, the VA has been, or VAC as we call it in Canada, they've actually been doing the opposite. They're saying, wouldn't you fulfill your duty to this country, dear duty-minded individual, if you just dropped dead? Just so I don't have to deal with the paperwork. Have you considered going to the doctor and asking to die? And so the Liberals have always said that this has been just a one-of. It should never have happened. But then, thanks to the good work of my friend Mark Meinke, who is a Canadian veteran himself, who has dealt with complex PTSD, that it wasn't just one. Veterans Affairs worker, and it wasn't in just one office, systemic across the country. Now, I've been on the hunt to prove that this is somehow government policy in the background, either by finding the smoking gun document or evidence of the cover-up. Because if they're covering it up, I'll never find the document, but I'll find the cover-up. Well, I got my hands on 2,200 pages of documents. 2,200 pages on something the Liberals told me wasn't a systemic policy. How do we have so many documents on this while they're telling me it's one caseworker, don't worry about it? Why do I have 200 or 2,200 pages? So that's currently what I'm doing right now. I'm going through those 2,200 pages of documents to see what I can find, and it's enormous. But so far, I have scratched the surface of what I think is evidence of a bit of a cover-up. So stay tuned for reports on that. If you want to help Officer set my research costs, because I feel as though, although it's early in my investigation, I'm going to have to file for more documents. And we have a researcher who helps us. He's a secret weapon, because there's no possible way that I could do everything else that I do at the company and also read through 2,200 documents and go through them like a laser beam. So we've called in some help. If you want to help, go to rebelinvestigates.com. Still on this same topic of medical assistance in dying. Look at this. Quebec. They say that starting this fall, it'll authorize early requests for euthanasia from certain patients before their condition renders them incapable of giving consent. Okay, so this, for those of you who feel like medical assistance in dying is okay, having the government kill you is okay, how do you revoke consent? You can't. You can't here, right? If in a moment of lucidity, you say, like, so it says, Quebec adopted a law in 2023 permitting people with serious and incurable diseases such as Alzheimer's to ask for medical assistance in dying while they have the capacity to provide consent, with the procedure being carried out after their condition has worsened. Okay, but the thing with Alzheimer's is, and this is the part that really chills me, is you do have these moments of lucidity where what happens in those moments of lucidity where the person changes their mind, how do they revoke consent? Right? You can't do that, and it's too late. And then also, who chooses when? Who chooses when you go? Like, I just feel like this is so set for abuse. People with Alzheimer's need care and love and comfort. They don't need the government showing up with the 3 IVs to do you in like you are a serial killer getting a lethal injection. On this topic still, another story. Do we even know what long COVID is? I don't know. Some people claim that it's caused by vaccination. Could be. We don't even know. Could be a vaccination injury. It could also be psychosomatic, like conversion disorder. You know what conversion disorder is? People are so stressed out that, or worried or in a state of hypochondria that it manifests in pain in their body. And if you've got somebody who is so like inundated with like, oh my God, you get COVID and then you get long COVID and then you'll just like suffer forever and ever and ever. It can manifest in conversion disorder. So it's not to say that the pain or the physical symptoms you're feeling aren't real, but they are alleviated not even through medical care, but psychological care. Well, so what I'm saying is long COVID might actually be a psychological disorder. It might actually be conversion disorder, or it could be a vaccine injury, or it could be long COVID. We don't even know. And if we don't know, we probably shouldn't be authorizing the government to kill these people. Correct? I think you can agree with me there. But a man has asked for medical assistance to die because of long COVID. He's had it for more than 3 years, and he's requesting medical assistance because he's exhausted, tired of being in pain, and this is the worst part. This is the part that we can all fix. He considers himself a burden to his family who are caring for him. That's the part we can all fix. What we found out in the process of making our documentary on MAID, it's called MAID, that the number one cause for people to seek MAID is not actually physical decline. It's not pain. It's the loss of purpose in their life, a feeling of use. And people can be of use in any different way, you know. That can be alleviated by showing up with cards and playing a game of cards with somebody. It's loneliness. It's a feeling of uselessness. And that's on us to fix. That's not something you should be executing people for. But that's what's happening here. And that the statistics show out. They interview people about why they are seeking MAID. If you want to see our movie, you can go to maiddocumentary.com. It's called MAID, The Dark Side of Canadian Compassion. But this person says that he has a serious and incurable illness. He is in persistent and unbearable suffering, and he makes requests in a free and informed manner. So you don't have to be, as many of you know, you don't have to even be engaged in the throes of a terminal illness to seek medical assistance in dying in Canada. You can just be sick. And according to you, in foreseeable suffering. So he says he struggles with chronic fatigue. Strobe lights cause him to have seizures and shake. One night he fell, and he constantly fights seizures, fatigue, and nausea. He has 2 kids, 20 and 15. He says he can't do his household chores, and he has difficulty caring for his children. Can we just help him do those things? Why do we have to help him die? My heart is with this 20-year-old and this 15-year-old. That was when we were working on the medical assistance in dying documentary, that was one of the hardest parts for me, was to hear from the people left behind. They are so helpless in all of this. And these girls whose mother, who's very clearly mentally ill, chose medical assistance in dying after she got out of the hours after she was released from the hospital for a prior suicide attempt. They asked themselves, why weren't we enough for you to keep living? I just, if the government approves this, I'll just, Quebec, come on. Okay, Olivia, do we have, oh, we do. Okay, great. Got another message from a partner here, from TAC-Right. Oh, this sounds cool. Military night vision tech released to the public. Where do I sign up? Let's find out together. Our partners at TAC-Right are giving night vision binoculars at 50% off today. I'm going to go right now after this live stream wraps up. All you have to do is visit TAC-RightNightVision.com and claim yours for 50% off today. Visiting the page today automatically activates your discount, so you don't need a coupon code. Just go right now. Similar military devices sell for over $4,000. However, TAC-Right was able to make similar technology available to the public for under $200 US. These things are flying off the shelves. Last time it got released on Rumble, it sold out, and it took 3 months to get it back in stock. Order today and it will ship out in 24 hours from New York. Get your night vision today. That's TAC-Right, nightvision.com. Oh, that's very, very, very exciting. I can snoop around the neighborhood and see what everybody's up to. By everybody, I mean the deer and the weasels and the porcupines, given where I live. Olivia, do we have a Rebel ad that we want to go to? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Oh, sorry. You need me to read that? Let me find it. Oh, Lord. Okay. I should tell you, on Saturday, September 14th, so creeping right up on us, less than a month away, Dr. Peter McCullough is coming to the Toronto area. You all know Dr. Peter McCullough, right? Many doctors bravely risked their careers to oppose the unscientific approach governments around the world took to COVID-19. But perhaps none with the same weight and authority as Dr. Peter McCullough. I've heard him speak in Red Deer. It's great. Such a brave man. The full day event will take place at Canada Christian College in Whitby, and it will feature speeches and a Q&A with Dr. Peter McCullough and special guests Mark Trozzi, that's Dr. Mark Trozzi, and Regina Whittow. NHL legend Theo Fleury and Canadian business magnate Joseph Bourgault will be in attendance to host the event. To get your tickets, go to canadiansfortruth.ca/events. I went to a very similar event in Red Deer, and it was wonderful. I cannot recommend the events from Canadians for Truth enough, because there's, you get the speech and then you get the Q&A. Do we have a video ad for them though? Great.
When the panel said, listen, give it to 6-month-old babies with zero assurances this possibly would be safe. I said, where were you the day when the WHO came out and said, do not use remdesivir in the hospital? I'm Dr. Peter McCullough. Join me for an evening together. Tickets are on sale now.
All right, let's see how quickly we can breeze through the last few topics here. World Health Organization Director General Tedros, who's a veterinarian, I believe. He's got the next pandemic on the ready for us. So he declares the ongoing monkeypox outbreaks in Africa a public health emergency. Let's take a listen.
The detection and rapid spread of a new clade of Mpox in eastern DRC, its detection in neighboring countries that had not previously reported Mpox, and the potential for further spread within Africa and beyond is very worrying. In addition to other outbreaks of other clades of Mpox in other parts of Africa, it's clear that a coordinated international response is essential to stop these outbreaks and save lives. A public health emergency of international concern is the highest level of alarm under international health law. The emergency committee's advice to me and that of the African CDC Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, which yesterday declared a public health emergency of regional security, are aligned. WHO is on the ground, working with the affected countries and others at risk through our country and regional offices, as well as with partners including the Africa CDC, NGOs, civil society, and more.
Okay, so did he neglect to tell you how monkeypox spreads? We're calling it Mpox now because we wouldn't want to say that initially it did come from monkeys. It's just like how it was the Wuhan coronavirus, and then all of a sudden it was COVID-19. We didn't want to talk about where it actually came from. So monkeypox is an STD. Why didn't he tell us that? It's an STD. It's spread through sexual contact. That's as far as I'm going to go into that because I am not, I'm prudish. I have a weak stomach for this sort of stuff. So it's an STD. So probably if you don't want people spreading it, you might want to tell them to just keep it in their pants and quit engaging in gross skin to skin, saliva to saliva, and other fluid to fluid contact. And it's no irony that right after Pride season, or actually from the declaration of Pride season to 1 month later, Toronto had a Mpox, monkeypox outbreak. How do you think that happened? Celebrating a hedonistic lifestyle, encouraging a hedonistic lifestyle, and then everybody's got an STD you catch from engaging in multiple sex partners? Anyways, keep it in your pants and you guys will be just fine. Jamie Sarkanak, who writes at Post Media, National Post. I really enjoy her. So strong on parents' rights. I do enjoy her immensely. She tweets, and there's more to this story. I'll tell you this in a second. An Alberta utility worker was executed by roving carjackers last week. This is true. It was in Rocky View County. And to the surprise of nobody, one of the shooters was out on bail and prohibited from possessing weapons, specifically firearms. The other just got out of prison. Now, can we bring up the images of that guy again? So last week, when in the midst of the manhunt for these carjackers, the RCMP refused to give any real information about the guys. So, and that caused a problem because when we need to be on the lookout for murderous carjackers in rural Alberta, you might want to tell us what they look like, right? Well, as it turns out, and it was a good Samaritan that they killed. He was helping them. So it's, Arthur Wayne Penner, first-degree murder and attempted murder in connection, because there's actually a second victim here, but he lived. Attempted murder in connection with last Tuesday's fatal carjacking, and Elijah Blake Strawberry, 28, wanted on warrants for secondary murder. Both men are from Edmonton. Strawberry is considered armed and extremely dangerous and should not be approached. The suspects came across a Fortis Alberta worker, that's a utility company, at a rural intersection east of Calgary and set their broken, stolen truck on fire with a plan to steal the Fortis vehicle, police allege. The victim spotted the fire and believed the two men needed help. So he pulled over in his Rocky View County work truck to lend a hand. And so that's when the 39-year-old Fortis employee who was working in the area were both shot. The one man died of his injuries. He leaves behind a wife and 2 sons. So they would not tell us the descriptions of these individuals, one of whom is very clearly Indigenous. If we're to be on the lookout for people, wouldn't you tell us about any of their identifying features? Like the effing face tattoos he had all over him? Like, he's pretty recognizable. At some point when they were running amok, wouldn't you tell us he's got face tattoos? This is so dangerous to the public. And they just didn't bother to tell us any identifiable features about these, not how they looked. You know, that one of them is Indigenous, very clearly Indigenous. I don't know about the other one, but that one was very clearly Indigenous and had neck tattoos. No, they didn't tell us. Cultural sensitivities and whatnot. Anyway, let's go into this one. Cities and towns across Ontario. This is just Ontario. First, when I read this, I was like, across Canada? No, Ontario. Ontario. Cities and towns across Ontario saw at least 1,400 homeless encampments in their communities last year, according to the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. That's just Ontario. How many of those do you think are in Toronto alone? While municipalities did not create the homeless crisis, they are forced to manage it without the resources or tools to sufficiently respond, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario wrote. Municipalities are often caught balancing the important needs of unsheltered people living in encampments who deserve to be treated with empathy and respect, and responsibility to ensure our communities are safe and vibrant places for all residents. Several communities have sought injunctions in order to deal with the encampments with mixed results, and it's time for the province to provide some guidance on the issue, the AMO says. Also, the feds. This is an immigration problem. This is a cost of housing problem. This is a problem with the catch and release justice system. This is a mental health problem. And this is a drug problem. And this is easy access to drugs, government supplied drugs that keep people in a state of addiction. A lot of people choose to remain homeless, even if there are treatment beds available, even if there are shelter beds available. Why? Because you can't really be in active drug use in those places. So then they choose to be out on the streets. And we've got Justin Trudeau's government saying, no, it's fine. We're just going to enable these people into squalor and then the grave. So we can look to the province of Ontario for sure. But we also have to drill out and look at the macro issue. If it's too expensive to have a house, have an apartment, afford food, drive to work, get drug addiction treatment, and it is easier to get, it's cheaper to stay addicted to drugs than it is to get drug treatment. Houston, we have a problem, right? 1,400 in Ontario alone. That is remarkable. Why don't we, now I tweeted this, but maybe we want to go to David's social media video on this issue. RCMP, I saw this earlier in the week, investigating a church fire intentionally set at a church in Grand'Anse, I'm saying it wrong, my apologies, in New Brunswick. Now, the second I saw this, and I saw the reporting in CTV Atlantic, and they left out the name of the church and what kind of church it was. And I thought, okay, CTV Atlantic's just being useless. So I went to the RCMP release. They didn't say it either, but they did give me the street. Now, the good news about Grand'Anse is that it's a very tiny place. It's not even really a place anymore. It's been absorbed into the greater municipality. But they gave me the address, and so I went on Google Street View, drilled down. They didn't give me the address either, they just gave me the street. But again, teeny tiny place. So I drilled down, and my suspicions were correct. They didn't give the name of the church because it was a Catholic church. And you know that it is perfectly okay to burn Christian places of worship, but specifically Catholic ones, because Justin Trudeau said you could totally understand why everybody would burn a Catholic church. After all, they murdered those 215 kids and then shoved them into a mass grave in Kamloops, which is not at all what happened there. But that's what the media ran with, and that's what Justin Trudeau ran with. And he said, you know, I can totally understand why people are super mad at the Catholic Church. I mean, look at all those kids they killed. So it set off a spate of church burnings and vandalisms, most of them occurring to Catholic churches, not exclusively, but most of them. And that's how I knew that this church was the Catholic Church. When they didn't say that what the church was, even the denomination, I knew that it was a Catholic church. And sure as shoot, it was I think it was Saint Simon and St. Jude's Catholic Church, and historic church, by the way. Could have been a lot worse. David Menzies is out there investigating. The spire of the church, stone church, used to light the way. It was like used as a marker for sailors in this community. So a lot could have been lost. Luckily, it wasn't. But as is the case with many Catholic churches, they could have had a rectory. For those of you who don't know what a rectory is, that's where the priest lives. And so a lot of priests live in the church. My priest lives in the church. And so when you burn the church, you could be burning a priest alive. Just something to consider for the arsonists. Anyways, let's go to David Menzies. We sent David Menzies out there to investigate. So let's catch up with David. Sorry, Olivia needs a couple more minutes. We thought, oh, another church burning, added to the list, right? So we sent David Menzies out there to see just how bad it is, what the effect might be on the community when you burn, regardless of the religious attack, which I think is an important point in all of this. But even if you're not a religious person, you're burning a piece of the heritage and culture of a community. You're burning a community center. You're burning the local archives, right? Because frequently that's where the birth records were stored. A lot of people never got a birth certificate. You weren't even registered until you were baptized, and your death is recorded in the church as well. And so when you destroy this important piece of history, you're destroying a chunk of the community. Luckily, it wasn't a bad fire, but we thought it was worth investigating because, as I said, CTV Atlantic didn't even name the church. We went to the church. Olivia, do we have the clip?
David Menzies for Rebel News here in Grand Anse, New Brunswick. And folks, I'm standing in front of the most significant piece of architecture here in Grand Anse, namely the St. Simon and St. Jude Catholic Church. And luckily, or maybe it was divine intervention, this church is indeed still standing behind me, because you see, in the wee hours of Tuesday, someone entered the church via the side door and, well, tried to incinerate it. Thankfully, whoever tried to carry out this egregious act of arson failed, at least failed in terms of burning down the church. Right now, there are contractors on site repairing the damage. And I should tell you, the parish here, it dates back to the 1840s. The church behind me was completed in 1948. We know from reaching out to the RCMP that this is indeed being treated as an act of arson. And the question is, why? What was the motive of the arsonist? Right now, that remains unknown. And folks, before I go any further, I got to tell you, as far as I can tell, we are the only media outlet down here. Unlike Rebel News, the rest of the media doesn't seem to care about churches being attacked by firebugs. But you know something? We need your help. Our airfare, that's for Lincoln J and I, just to get down to New Brunswick from Toronto, that's $3,600 alone. We have a rental car expense, a hotel expense. Can you help us out? Can you help us recover some of our costs so that we can continue to bring you the other side of the story? Please go to rebelfieldreports.com. That's rebelfieldreports.com. And if you're able to, kindly chip in. But folks, let me tell you, I think there is something more insidious at play here, which is to say, for the last few years here in Canada, more than 100 churches have been attacked. Sometimes it's vandalism, sometimes it is being burnt to the ground. And for the mainstream media, for the federal government, it's really a nothing burger, isn't it? I would argue that what we've seen the past few years has been the most overlooked, underreported story in our country. And it's even worse than that. Consider Gerald Butts, Prime Minister Trudeau's best friend. He tweeted back in 2021 that attacking churches was understandable. Understandable? Are you kidding me? And why would that be? Why would the attack on Christian churches be understandable? Could it be tied to the hopes that certain Catholic churches, residential schools, are home to mass graves of Indigenous people, including children? Like I said, that is a falsehood, folks. There has been zero evidence presented to maintain that narrative, yet the usual suspects still cling to that falsehood. It's a way of condemning colonialism or imperialism or anti-Christian mindset, you name it, but it's all based on an outrageous lie. And so it is that in the eyes of the Gerald Butts of the world, attacking churches is perversely fashionable. That is despicable. And given our geopolitics of the day, I wonder, is it also fashionable to attack Jewish schools and synagogues? That's what we see being firebombed in Canada. And again, it seems that for various levels of government and the mainstream media, nothing to see here. But then again, I suppose being anti-Jewish, anti-Israel, that's understandable in Canada these days. Unbelievable. And I must point out, folks, the double standard. If, God forbid, anyone went out to firebomb a mosque, I wonder what the reaction would be. Well, I have a pretty good hunch. I think that would make for front page news. I think Justin Trudeau would cut short his surfing safari in Tofino, British Columbia, and fly to wherever the mosque was to stage a press conference. And by the way, that is not conjecture. Consider what happened in 2018 when a Toronto Muslim girl claimed that a man with scissors had shredded her hijab. Well, Justin Trudeau and so many other politicians joined a hastily arranged press conference staged by the Toronto District School Board. It was to condemn Islamophobia.
My heart goes out to the young girl who was attacked, seemingly for her religion.
Except for one small insignificant hitch. The entire story was made up. It was a lie. It came to be known as the hijab hoax. But for those on the left, well, you see, even though it didn't happen, it could have happened. So therefore, we should still condemn Islamophobia, even when Islamophobia doesn't happen. Well, maybe I'm missing.
All right, so that's a little bit of David's reporting from Grand Anse, New Brunswick, but he is right to point out the double standard. You can't even get a comment from a low-level Liberal official on the church burnings because I don't really think they disapprove of them. I think that they, well, as Justin Trudeau said, he understands. And as Gerald Butts said, he understands. Gerald Butts, Justin Trudeau's bestie and longtime advisor, yeah, he understands them too. We've got one more message, and then we'll go into the couple of chats that we have here, including a free one. True to my word, I will read a free one. Okay, so our next message is from The Kids Guide. I have an important message about President Trump for all the parents out there, so please listen up. President Trump said he wants to take back America and teach our kids to love our country. That's why it's so important that we make sure our kids are learning the truth about President Trump, not the distorted lies they're hearing in the mainstream media. The good news is that Mike Huckabee's team put together the Kids Guide to President Trump. And right now you can get it for free with fun illustrations and easy to follow content. This important guide teaches kids all about President Trump's accomplishments during his first term, and it helps kids understand his goals for 2024. Mike Huckabee wants to send you this free guide so you can teach your kids the truth. But please hurry because supplies are limited. To claim your free Kids Guide to President Trump right now, just go to visit kidstrumpguide.com. That's kidstrumpguide.com. Yeah, don't let your kids learn about Trump from some woke teacher. Teach them for yourself. That's kidstrumpguide.com. All right, let's get into, I think we had a couple of chats here. Olivia, is that right? I see two. Yeah? Okay, perfect. We've got one from regular live stream viewer, Ryerson Gary. He's not just a viewer, he's a supporter. And we're so grateful for it. But he says, poor David didn't get to tell us that today is Tell a Joke Day. It is. I looked it up. I didn't just take your word for it. I looked it up. It is National Tell a Joke Day. And it is also National Kool-Aid Day. And also Madonna's birthday. How old is Madonna? Does anybody know? It's her birthday. She definitely doesn't act her age. She was born August 16th, 1958. Good grief. Is that 66? 66? Good Lord. In recent years, she has begun resembling more and more a pickled egg. The variety photo. She does. She looks like a pickled egg. Like her hair looks like the dill stuck to the pickled egg as you pull it out of the jar. She's all smooth and egg-shaped. It's odd. I don't think she has to look or even act her age, but that is a bit odd. She's starting to look like a space alien, don't you think? All right. What else we got in store here? We've got a free one. Free chat. Let's see. Where is it? I don't see it. I lost the free one, Olivia. Oh, I see it now. Free chat from a Rumble viewer. From Sharon Donner, 78. Thanks, Sheila, for putting into words what I've been feeling about COVID. Didn't know much about long-term COVID, nor that it was being used as a reason to apply for medical assistance in dying. Apparently it is. And I don't even I'm not saying it's not real, but I'm not saying it is real. And either way, I don't think it's a reason to ask the state to euthanize someone using drugs that have been outlawed in several states for use in executions of serial killers. Right? Okay, I think that's it. We are an hour and a half into the show. It went long today. Thanks everybody who tuned in. Thanks everybody who works behind the scenes at Rebel to put the show together so you can watch it whenever you want to watch it. Special thanks to Olivia behind the board today. And as my friend David always says, stay sane.
Governments are turning a blind eye to genocide.
Oh, do you mean what happened on October 7th?
I'm talking about before October 7th for 76 years and what's happening now in Gaza. Over 100 people were massacred. Over 100 civilians were massacred yesterday. This morning, they woke up, they sleep to massacres, and they wake up to massacres. Report the news correctly. Report the news correctly.
Are you going to assault me again, sir, like you did at Nathan Bell Square?
Go fuck yourself. Huh? You're a liar. You're fake news.
Oh, is that right? Can you articulate, sir, why you're here today?
None of your damn business.
Well, it is a public demonstration, isn't it?
You don't need to know.
Well, you have the microphone. You can put your own words on camera.
Talk to you.
Okay, well, you approached me, sir.
No, you're a liar. I know that.
I'm a liar.
Absolutely.
You didn't approach me. I was just doing my stand-up, and you came to me.
Stand somewhere else.
Are you the pharmacist, sir?
That's none of your damn business.
Don't talk to me.
None of your damn business.
Who are these masked men, sir, telling you not to talk?
Gonna take your words out of context.
No, I know.
Cut it all up.
Don't talk to him.
Don't talk to him. Don't talk to him.
Oh, and now who is Chase? What does that mean?
Don't talk to him.
Sir, why are you guys wearing disguises?
Don't talk to him. Don't talk to him.
It looks like I've stumbled across a Mexican wrestling show or something.
Don't talk to him. Don't talk to him. Don't talk to him. Don't talk to him. Don't talk to him.
Hi, everybody. As you know, every year we do a fundraiser for Rebel News that's super fun. It's a Rebel News cruise. We all go on a cruise ship together. We have dinner with each other. We have seminars when the ship's at sea, like Q&A sessions. And the rest of the time is your own. It's a vacation. It's a way to connect with other Rebel News enthusiasts. It's a way to check in with me and Sheila Gunn-Reid and Drea Humphrey and David Menzies. Tons of Rebels are on the trip, and at the end of the day, it's a way to keep Rebel News strong because there's a little extra added to the cost, which is how we float the boat here at Rebel News. It's a fundraiser. Here's the next Rebel News cruise in case you've always wanted to go on one. It sets sail out of Vancouver June 18th, 2025. It's a week-long, June 18 to 25. 2025, and it's Vancouver to Alaska. So it's a lot easier to get to than a Caribbean cruise where you have to fly to Florida to set sail. Starts in Vancouver, where I'll greet you, Sheila, David, Alexa Lavoie, Drea Humphrey. It's a super fun trip. I've done it before. We go to Skagway, which is where the gold rush started. We go to Glacier National Park, which is as beautiful as it sounds. Go to rebelnewscruise.com to learn more, to check the pricing, and to book your cabin. Just let me rattle off some of the details of the places we're going. It's called the Alaska Inside Passage Cruise. If you know what that means, you go up right along the coast. It's on Holland America, so it's nice. It's the MS Zandam. That's the name of the ship. Obviously, we start off in Vancouver, next the Tracy Arm Inlet, then Juneau, the capital of Alaska, Skagway, by far my favorite city. It's amazing. Then Glacier Bay. Maybe the most beautiful place I've ever been in my life. Back to Ketchikan and then down to Vancouver. If you like cruising, this is a super way to do it with fellow travelers, ideologically speaking. If you've never cruised before, this is a great way to start. And if you've been on Rebel News cruises, well, you don't want to miss this one. Again, for details, go to rebelnewscruise.com. It's next June, so just under a year away, but not too soon to order and to get the early bird discount. I'll see you at sea.
Ladies and gentlemen, Leapin' Lincoln J here with none other than the Menzoid. Say, Menzoid, we're enjoying a marvelous summer so far, but a lot of Rebel News viewers are asking, what sort of fashion tips do you have for them in the weeks ahead?
Well, let me tell you something, Leapin' Lincoln. There are all kinds of fashion trends out there for the summer of 2024. There are animal prints ranging from cheetah to zebra. There are those awesome straw hats. And of course, there's that classic teeny-weeny polka dot bikini. But if you don't have one particular item in your summertime ensemble,
I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again. Let Trumpomania make America great again.
Rebel News now has the hottest fashion accessories of the summer. I'm talking Trumpomania t-shirts for $39. I'm talking Trumpomania tank tops for only $35. And when summer's over, folks, no problem. We have Trumpomania sweatshirts and hoodies starting at $55. And brother, when you want to be styling and profiling as you drink your Morning Joe, we even have Trumpomania coffee mugs for just $29. It's all available at the rebelnewsstore.com. Hey, Leapin' Lincoln, try these verses on for size. Roses are red, violets are blue. Hey, Kamala, when Trumpomania hits the campaign trail, what you gonna do?
Are you coming to a Rebel News Live in Calgary this October? We've added another great speaker, political science professor emeritus at the University of Calgary, Tom Flanagan, the renowned author who co-authored the best-selling book, Grave Error: How the Media Misled Us and the Truth About Residential Schools. You know, they say that us Canadians, we're just so nice, but I think we're just good at biting our tongues, even when doing so can be detrimental to our nation. Like all of the cowardly politicians, historians, and journalists whose silence is still breathing life into the false 2021 claim that the remains of 215 Indigenous children had been discovered in unmarked graves at BC's former Kamloops Indian Residential School. But that's the opposite of what will be happening during our in-person Rebel News Live event coming to Calgary October 5th. Our Rebel News Live will feature many of your favorite Rebel reporters, including yours truly, and conservative and freedom-minded speakers like Mr. Tom Flanagan, who uses his expertise to prove that we're not the racist child slaughterers who must forever be in shame and reconciliation, as they'd like us to think. It's been 3 years, nearly over 100 burnt and vandalized churches, and millions of taxpayer dollars later, and still not a single body has been discovered in an unmarked grave at the former Kamloops Indian Residential School. And Tom Flanagan is not afraid to say that, and we're not afraid to give him a stage to do so. If you haven't already, go to rebelnewslive.com. Buy your tickets at the early bird pricing, which is still available, and there's still some tickets for VIP. where you'll not just be able to meet us, but also eat and hang out with us after the conference. Again, that's rebelnewslive.com. I'll see you there.